Welcome back to another episode of the Dangerous When Focused podcast with me, your host, Sean Bryan. Today, we're joined by the Mr. Jay Counsel. Jay, thank you so much for coming on board, bro. How are you?
All good, yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been a long time in the making.
It fucking has. I was thinking, this lad's hard to get a hold of. And I was thinking, is he ducking and dodging me? Is he not into the podcast? Is he following? And I checked, and you are following. So I appreciate that. We want to jump straight into it because we like to keep these real nice and easy breezy. I think it's my first time meeting you.
Yeah.
Or I definitely seen you on the news a while ago. I was like, what's up, bro? How are you? And you were like, who's this head case?
No, we chat a good bit now online, but I think this is the first time I proper met you.
And it's funny because I would have DJ back in the day and would have DJ'd with friends of yours. No need to name who they are.
Yeah.
The lads would have been doing gigs and I would have done like BD and certain festivals. And I'm not sure if you were there. And I actually did see it again. I feel like not a stalker outside the Morgan. But we haven't met. But I'm trying to think, do you know when we first connected online? Because there's a lot of mutual friends and I'm like, I don't know. I think I seen one of your videos and I followed you thinking, God, I like this lad's content.
Yeah.
I think I know who it is. Were you on a podcast with Lydia Del Doy?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
So I was on her podcast as a guest, I think.
Right.
And I think I followed actually some really inspirational people. You're one of them, I know, right? So I'm not trying to give you a big head. But Pat Dively as well.
Yeah, I actually know Pat as well, yeah.
So
he's written a few books and stuff on
2
mindset
books
and everything, hasn't he?
Oh man, they're in Easton's, both of them, and one of them is called Upgrade Your Life. It changed my life, and then the other one is called Enhancement or something. But the first one is better for me. But yeah, do you remember our first interaction online? I'll probably go, oh, what's up, bro?
I don't have a clue. I have a head like a sieve, mate. It's probably getting too many punches over the years, but
and then
I don't have a clue, bro.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of a major fan, and over the last 2 years, I've been trying to get not sober, drug-free. So I'm a real big fan of following pages and people that are actually putting out some no bullshit, real information, real life, I suppose, issues and things that matter. And I don't want to presume who you are. I want to get to know who you are. So can you kind of tell us like how old you are, where you're from, and like, just to anyone that might know who you are, like I'm Jay, I'm from so-and-so, and what you work at, and bring us up to kind of how we got to know you now, which is, to me, an MMA fighter.
Yeah, so I'm a professional Muay-Thai fighter.
Muay-Thai, sorry, yeah.
I'm 28 years old, so I'm touching on now. I work full-time and I fight full-time professionally, so I'm flat to the mat. Yeah, and I like the occasional party, the occasional Guinness.
Yeah, I know.
Trying my best not to, but it's hard, especially this day and age. But yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
So, are you from Ringsend? Is that right?
Yeah, sorry, I'm from
Have you lived there all your
Ringsend.
life, born and bred, or no?
I was born in Pearl Street in Markovich House in the flats there, and then I moved down to Ringsend when I was in second class or something.
Okay.
So I'd class myself as a Ringsender.
Okay. The people seem to welcome you in anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's funny, I live in Temple Bar the last 10 years. I've actually used to be a member of the Markovich gym. So I know that area well, and I think sometimes if I see on your stories going for runs or using the city, I don't know how we haven't, well actually you're probably up at 6 a.m. I'm up a bit later. I'm probably still snoozing when you're on your way to work. So the reason why I kind of wanted to get yourself on was to kind of chat a little bit about lifestyle. I love what you put out, and I'm 37, so I'm at a different stage in life. And I think the main reason was I haven't spoke to a Muay. Is MMA still a Muay Thai or is it separate? MMA is no, it's totally different.
Yeah, MMA is mixed martial arts, so it's like boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. Okay. But Muay Thai is primarily, it's just standing up fighting.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So it's
mixed
not
martial arts.
It's not kickboxing. No, Muay Thai. So it's just standing up.
Yeah. Muay Thai, the difference between Muay Thai and kickboxing is you can elbow people.
In Muay Thai?
Yeah, in Muay Thai. And you can clinch as well. But that's basically the difference between the two.
Okay.
So it's a bit more vicious than kickboxing.
Wow. Okay. So just as its point in case, we spoke about Cian Cowley from Warriors. So he would be a kickboxing champion. Is that correct?
No, Muay Thai. Yeah. And now he does MMA.
Oh,
so, yeah.
gee. See, when I was growing up, I was watching Kickboxer and Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah,
I just thought,
same, yeah.
So maybe
it's all the same. That's base, yeah.
That's what it is.
It's just different styles, you know what I mean?
And okay, so I grew up and I was a very big Mike Tyson fan because my dad liked boxing. My uncle boxed a little bit in Crumlin and he was in the army, very fit. Same as my dad in the army, very fit, mad into bodybuilding. And movies like Kickboxer and like growing up in the 80s and 90s, action movies are real big to me.
Bruce Lee and all that jazz.
Do you know what?
Enter the Dragon. No.
Not even Bruce Lee. Like I liked the Bruce Lee story, one which was his son plays him. Have you ever seen that movie, Brandon Lee?
I don't think I have.
It's there's tonight's movie if you're watching it. It's amazing. And Brandon Lee is the guy that he actually died making The Crow, which is a movie that's coming out now. I'm big into movies. Yeah. We'll get into that. Can you remember when then, like what? So, okay, did you have, like, you're in school, did you enjoy school, or just what clicked with you to trying to get into sports, or what's the dream?
Yeah, do you know what? It's funny, in school, I was never mad into sports. And in school, I actually struggled to, like, focus because I was never really interested in any of the subjects. The only thing I was interested in when I was a kid was playing the Xbox, Modern Warfare 2.
Thought that was leading up to something. I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. And
which is a profession now if you're doing professional gamers or streamers. I know a few lads that make really big money from that.
I was making YouTube videos playing Call of Duty. This was like...
Are they online still?
Yeah. I was handy, I was, yeah.
Yeah.
And how I got into fighting... like that type thing. This is a bit of a mad story. This is the start of like a villain arc, right?
Okay.
So when I was younger, I was about 17 and I got robbed when I was in town, right?
Were you out drinking or just in town?
No, it was in the middle of the day. Two people came up, scaldy looking blokes, and they basically said, give us your phone or you're getting stabbed.
Wow.
So I grew up like in rough areas, so I was always like accustomed to like having a fight. But whatever happened on this day, I just froze and gave over my phone. And after that, I felt like demasculated. I felt like I felt like a pussy after.
Yeah.
So I said, right, if that ever happens again, I'm gonna bleed and box the head off anyone.
And it's so you were in like scraps in the area or in the schoolyard, or
just growing up.
Yeah,
just growing up. And I actually remember I was only talking to my brother about this, even from when I was a kid. I remember it was in primary school, and there was a young fella bullying me, right? And I said it to my older brother Martin. He was like, how many? I can't even think off the top of my head.
Yeah,
he's a bit older than me. And he said, right, you have to go up to this young fella and just box him straight in the face. And I was like, no, I can't do that. I'll get in trouble. And he goes, no, this is how you're sorting it. So my brother actually...
he's probably going to hit you.
Yeah, my brother brought me up to this kid and he goes, right. And my brother stepped away and I just cracked your man. And after that, this young fella became a good friend of mine, but he stopped being a bully. Okay. So I learned early on, that's how you deal with bullies. Right, but that was when I was very young, and then growing up in school, I continued this tradition. If anyone started something and you were trying to bully you, have a knock, and that sorts it. So when this happened
I'm sweating thinking about it.
Yeah, so when this happened then, and I didn't do one, and that really like affected me for a while. And I ended up, I was 17.
Did they hit you or anything, or did you just hand it over the phone?
It was just like intimidation, just...
how old do you reckon they were? Sorry, just to paint the picture.
Yeah, so I was 17. They were probably like late 20s, you know what I mean?
Wow, that's a massive difference.
Yeah, two scaldy characters, like. And so after that then I said, if anyone does that again, I'm going to bleed and box the head off them. And I was 17 when that happened. And then I was 18. I started going out on nightclubs.
Oh, it's a weird
Started getting into trouble then, having street fights all the time. But it was like my way of proving to myself, I can defend myself. So I was going out, getting into murder on the weekends. Me and one of my mates who's a kickboxer, we would go out. We'd never start trouble, but you know yourself.
It's when you're young, that age.
There's always trouble.
If you're looking, it's
town.
there. Yeah, 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Where we was going out as a point of interest, like
we were
Sin, or I don't know where we did, like, or like
we
D2
would be
or
going to
Red.
Sin, and we'd be going to like Play nightclub.
Play. Sorry, Play used to be an
awful kip.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were going there and just fighting, and then me mate who was a kickboxer, Joe Doyle, he said, I was actually very good at street fighting.
Okay, you were a
right?
natural boy.
Yeah.
Naturally gifted.
Yeah, and then he was like, mate, you need to get into something. And me mate Casey Walsh then, he was having a Muay Thai fight. This was, say, after about a year of me going out fighting all the time.
But it was very, very frequent.
Like every weekend nearly going out and getting into murder. Sometimes on a Friday and a Saturday night. Do you know what I mean?
That's kind of how a lot of it was. I remember that it was like lads like, what you saying? No. And he'd be like, you calling me a lawyer? And then you're like, no, and then they just hit you.
Yeah, because I'm small, right?
Yeah.
So it was very easy. Like you'd walk past somebody, bump off, you say, what are you doing? I'd say,
that's exactly how they start.
See you outside, crack, good night and God bless.
I know it's funny, I used to be around, I was never really in a fight. I'd be the one legging it. I was just like shit myself. But when you're in them situations, were you getting a buzz afterwards, like in terms because that's being honest. It's important to note them things, because I remember being like, I used to do graffiti and I'd be vandalising people's properties, but I'd be feeling deadly afterwards. Yeah. So it's like sometimes doing something bad does feel good.
Yeah. But I was getting a buzz, but I think I was like,
you're very young, 18,
putting me anger into something else, and it was obviously a very negative thing. And then me mate Casey, he had a Muay Thai fight. And I remember watching it just thinking, man, I can fucking do that. That should be me in there. Right. And then literally that was on the Saturday. And then on the Monday, I was down in the gym that he was training at.
What gym was it? Just
309 Phang Malai.
And it's still there?
Yeah, that's the gym. That's the gym I train at now. Like, so that was when I was like 18 or 19. I went in there and that just taught me like so much. It made me realise I couldn't actually fight. Whereas I thought,
you were just cracking lads.
Now locked.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's locked fighting. You think you're a bleeding animal, and then you go into somewhere where people can actually fight, and it makes you realise how much of a bleeding hell when you are. You know? And then I just stuck to that, and it just taught me like discipline, self-confidence, and just completely.
Did you feel like you had somewhere to chat? Like if you're, say, just for a novice going in, I've always been invited to the gyms and I'm like, I don't want to go in and spar. I like the idea of going into doing pads, and Emmett Brennan, a guest of ours, he does it now. And a few other people I see that they do, like I think like Lee Hammond is a lad I follow, and they do train in that entry level just for fitness.
Yeah. But
going in though, because I would imagine to people that don't know, it's very intimidating. Like the movies where like, hey, what are you doing coming here? And you're like, fight this guy, you know, like the old movies. Yeah. But what was it like? Were you going in? Yeah. Like a friend brought you in and we're like, was it a scary place? Yeah. Or did you have a bit of a chip going in? Be like, I can bleed.
No, 100%. I was shitting myself going in, because like that. From watching movies, you think there's some tough guy with tattoos gonna blade and box the head off you, but it's not like that at all.
Where does it come from, the fighting style? Like what country does it originate
Thailand, Muay Thai.
Muay Thai. Oh yeah,
Thailand. Yeah.
Man's from me. And it's very like, how would I say, when you're walking in, is there like a main gym owner, or is there like a hierarchy, like, you know, like with belts and there's levels to it?
Yeah, no, there's no belts in Muay Thai. Like there's a coach there. And when I went in now, there was a few scary looking individuals, but I quickly found out it's not like that at all. Like everyone's there to try better themselves. Everyone's there to try get in shape, lose weight. So
funnel kind of maybe frustration.
Exactly.
Anger, and it's just a different community. Like
and like I said, I never really stuck to anything when I was a kid. Like sports or anything. I was only Call of Duty. But once I found Muay Thai, I was like, fuck me, man. I love this shit. Like straight off the bat, I was
What do
hooked.
you think it was? Like, was it like getting the sweat on, or like being part of like that environment? Was there music on? Like, how do you paint
I think it was like...
You just knew you were...
It was I've recently been diagnosed with ADHD.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think this was like... I always had so much energy. And I think this was like just an outlet for me to just go bleed mental. And by the end of it, I'd be absolutely exhausted.
Which is obviously good for you.
Yeah. And it would force me to like focus. And with ADHD, if you're interested in something, you'll go like mental obsessive with it.
Okay.
And yeah, that's what happened, man. I got hooked on it straight off the bat.
So then you're in and around like a young man, like 19-ish?
Yeah, 19, 20 now, yeah.
With life going on then, did you get in any more trouble or no? Because you knew you're kind of like a lethal weapon. That's what I hear people saying, like, you know, if you're actually professionally trained or you're doing that, like your hands and your training, that you can probably quickly dismantle someone or stop a punch or take someone down and choke them out. I'm always very fearful of fights. My dad, I would have been very soft. Like, I mean, like the back of my legs would have went in school. And you know, that feeling doesn't happen much to me in my life. It feels like it happened to you. I don't know if it happened to you a lot.
Yeah.
Or as you said, you wanted to kind of just, I don't know, not prove yourself. That's not what you said. You were like, yeah, right, let's have a knock. Or a fight. But for me, I remember being like, fuck. And my dad, my mum and dad separated. But like my dad, I'd go to him every weekend, but he used to work like and then be a bouncer and he was a scrapper. He was punching the head off everyone out in the area. But he never really went for trouble unless he drank. Yeah. And then one time he actually got his head punched in and like by these young lads. And he had brain damage and was invincible. Jesus. And he said it scared him to death that he kind of stopped drinking. Yeah. But I remember going like, the lads used to come looking for trouble with me in the nightclub. You know, I was like, not a pretty boy or anything, but I just wasn't that big. Like, you know, the scaldy group of lads that just want fights. I could spot trouble a mile away. And I remember I used to leave early. Used to not enjoy myself. If you're talking to a girl, I remember like lads would come up to you and start slagging you. Yeah. So it's good to talk to someone about maybe bullying and, as you said, discipline. So when you wrapped up kind of, you know, the street fight, we'll say, and got into a gym, what happened next then to get into like actually competing and like, is there a big step in that? You're putting yourself out there?
Yeah, so it was very quick. Like within about 3 months of joining the gym, I had my first fight. And once I started training, I stopped getting into street fights completely then. And I just focused on the training side of things. And it was just like one small positive step led to loads of other small little steps. So I joined the gym and then I was around people who knew things about nutrition, about sleep. And now getting advice off older people. Like in the gym, you have people of all ages. People working in all different types of jobs, all different religions, races, everything. Yeah. So like it was a completely new world. I went from being a young fella who's only around his mates from Ringsend to all of a sudden being around people from all every different walks of life. And it was like, I know for a fact if I have kids, they'll 100% be like
something you'd push.
Yeah, not even push, but I'd like them to mess around with it because man, the difference it made in me, like, just gave me self-confidence, self-belief, and just the ability to understand that everyone's the same, no matter where you're from. Everyone has their same struggles, problems, whatever, and we're all just trying to navigate through life, you know what I mean?
Very wisdom. Yeah, so you have an older brother, but how many siblings so are you a middle child or how many?
Yeah, so I have sisters? A younger brother, a younger sister. I see him on the Instagram now. He gets a bit of grief off you. Yeah, now. It's all playful, I know. Yeah. I have an older brother, younger brother, and my little sister as well. So
okay, four of you in the house. Yeah. So when I think of like back to like early days of me and when we're cutting sew, because it's very important that we talk about like, for me, struggles and I suppose things that people don't see. Like for me, I remember like we haven't spoke about as much maybe as my dad and like getting in, but I was kind of lost being in my early 20s. I was like, what am I doing? I was an apprentice carpenter. That didn't work out. A recession hit. Then I tried hairdressing and then I was going out with a hairdresser and she was like, you were in Snickers last month and now you're leading working in Tony and Guy. She was like, there's something you're not telling me or what's the crack? And I was just trying to find my way, like mid-20s, early 20s. And it's funny that you said you were diagnosed with ADHD because we might ask about how you get diagnosed, how you find that out later. But for me, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I think people now with Instagram and social media, it's a great platform if it's used right. But it also makes people want to be like, you know, just because somebody looks like they're driving a BMW or they have a Rolex and all this, people think that's winning. But I actually think if you don't have a community or people around you, i.e. a gym or some form of community outside of your community or house, how do you navigate? So when you were at that age, did you have, like, were you thinking, I'm going to finish school? Did you want to go to, did you go to college, or did you go, like everyone wants to, I wanted to be a professional footballer and a snooker player, but I didn't finish school, I didn't go to college. Because now I would look at you as being like a very inspirational, motivational young man, especially Dublin and Irish, that people can look up to. But yeah, did you have like a bit of a dream before you got into this and started
So that's
winning
what
titles?
I was saying. Like, I never really had a sense of purpose or direction.
Even up until that age, or even
up until I got into fighting, like, because I was 17 when I finished my leaving cert.
Okay.
And I didn't know where I was going in life. And I think that's what led me down to, like, going out, drinking, fighting, just a lack of purpose.
Yeah.
And then once I found the gym, that gave me something to work towards. And I was like, Jesus, this could take me somewhere, you know what I mean?
Because when you seen your friend Casey or whoever, and you were like, I could do this and do it better.
Yeah.
Is that like, or not like,
not do it better, but I knew, I was like, I'm out here fighting on the streets, so I could be in there with gloves and the referee.
This is easy.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And that was my attitude. And yeah, it just gave me a sense of just accomplishment, and it changed me life, man, honestly, like big time, because then it forced me to be like, right, learn about diet, learn about sleep, learn about lifting weights, learn about your mind and how much of an impact it can have on you, on your performance and your life and everything in general, you know?
So here's the thing, because obviously I follow your Instagram page, and I'm like, for me, what's fascinating as a fighter is going, again, I'm coming up on 500 days away from drugs. I used to just use cocaine or coke or bag, whatever you want to call it. And I just use it every weekend when I was out DJing and partying, and it gets so normalized. But one thing I was missing was discipline. So when I follow your page and I see yourself and other fighters, I think it's mental how powerful you are, and people that fight, because you can go months without drinking, eating fucking pizza. I think I seen a funny story of you in your job.
I still eat.
Oh, you can
still eat.
Okay.
You can still, like, people think if you're living like a healthy lifestyle, it's 100% health.
No, okay.
Like, I'll still, like, 80% of the time, it'll be good grub. And the other 20%,
really?
I'll still eat a bit of shit.
95 and 5.
Yeah, otherwise, I've tried to go to 100%, and then it ends up me bleeding into a jar of Nutella with a bleeding spoon. Do you know what I mean? And it's just nightmare. So it's about balance. Like, it's very hard to have balance. But I think you strive for balance.
So my thing was, not strive for perfection.
Yeah.
But the thing that I see when you get, say you're fighting and you've like a fight coming up in 3 months, when I see people like the biggest stars, there's no need to name names here, I'm like, how can they go from whatever weight it is and then cutting weight and then to be like, holy shit, you know, they look different.
Yeah.
You know, we'll just use the old McGregor for visual purposes, you know, because I don't really know much about that life. When you see him walking around weight and then you see him at, I think, 145, featherweight, and you're like, he actually looks like The Walking Dead. And like, you see him and he's hanging, and then the next 24 hours later, he's like a new man, bouncing around, shadow boxing, eating steaks. The discipline, I suppose, that it takes, but you think it's actually more of is it a lifestyle, really? Can you do both? Can you do like the Maradona, go out on the session for 4 days and then be on the pitch playing for Napoli or whoever he played for?
No, I've tried the Maradona. It doesn't work. But like, for example, say like you can do like a 12-week camp where you don't drink, you don't go out, you eat healthy most of the time. Easy. And that's, you can do it. You can do it because, you know, after your fight, you can go out with the lads, you can have a few gargles, you can eat the pizza. Do the Maradona. And then do that for about a week and then just get back. So it's like
that's
a
what
cycle.
I feel like a lot of people
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's not, it's only because I'm big into snooker as well. And I just finished reading Jimmy White's autobiography. He was on James English podcast. Very interesting. If you're just into sports and whatever, he's been in the most world finals of snooker and never won any. And he was mad on the drink, mad gambler, like would be drinking 2 double vodka orange juices in the morning. He never did drugs. Now I think he smoked a bit of weed, but like never did hard drugs. And in the podcast and in his book, he's, you watch him and you're like, wow, this is a sad book. But when you actually listen to the podcast now, he goes, man, if I didn't go on the drink, like I 1,000,000% would have won. And I'm like, well, so in your field, because I want to kind of talk about competing and some belts, and I see your Instagram bio, but I don't want to get any wrong information. I'd like you to tell me some highs and lows and where you're at and what weight you fought and if you've won anything and what, if so what. But when I watched that, I was like, man, like it's hard. Like I think of myself as a professional barber, but in the athlete sense, I have to recover. You'll burn out. I'm 37. I can't do the same things I could 10 years ago. I used to do 6 days a week, all day, every day. Now I just can't, physically, emotionally, everything. So my window is different. But now I think 28 is quite young. But will you tell us a little bit about like competing and what you've won, highs and lows, like the best so far, the lowest so far, and where you're currently at, like professionally? So
I'll give you an example of what you were saying there about like, what's your man's name?
Jimmy White.
Jimmy White.
Yeah. Do you not know him?
No.
Do you know
I'm
Ronnie
not
O'Sullivan?
I'm not mad into
Have you heard of Ronnie O'Sullivan?
Yeah, I heard of Ronnie O'Sullivan. Yeah, Ken Doherty.
Yes. He does know this lad.
Yeah, so like with the whole drinking thing, when I started fighting, I wasn't drinking and I was fighting and I was winning. And once I start winning loads of fights, my ego starts saying, you can go out on the piss and still batter this fella next week. So I started then going out on the session, say a week before a fight, going in, and I won a couple. So it was making me reinforcing the idea you can still do this. Because you're winning, you think you're bleeding invincible.
I'd say.
Yeah, that sort of buzz. And then I had a really big fight. And the week before it, I was out and it was for the Irish #1 spot.
How old were you just?
What age was it?
A few years ago?
It was only, I can't even bleeding remember, to be honest.
But
about 5 years ago or something.
Yeah.
And I went out the week before it and just messed up. Wasn't as disciplined as I should have been. And like it's something that still wrecks me head because I know I could have beat this fella if I had just been 100% dedicated. But like some lessons you have to learn. Bad? No, I lost on decision, but like it was a real lesson for me. It's like you can't compete at this level. Some fellas training twice a day, not drinking, living the proper lifestyle you're supposed to, and you think you can go out bleeding, dancing and partying the week before fights. But then I learned that lesson, and then from there then I was like, right, I'm going to stop drinking, say 12 weeks out from a fight. Wow. And just go 100%.
So I read Coach Kavanagh's book, is it win or learn, or you never win or lose. And I'm like, all the quotes I like, and I follow a lot of cheesy pages, but also I think me and you have read some of the same books. I love getting the highlighter out, and I call them a knowledge bomb because I'm thinking nobody in my game is reading the amount of books I'm reading for keeping cut and sew on top. And when I read them, I'm like, you know what? If I read this book, it costs me €15, which is probably 2 points now. But if I get a couple of knowledge bombs from that one book, that gives me an edge on John's barbers next door or Paul's barbers down the road. And I love that. And I'm like, you need to have that edge. But when I nearly lost a business a few years ago, I was partying loads, taking lots of drugs, out nightclubbing. And my ego, I remember thinking, because all these young lad barbers, it was weird to have an ego in my industry. But barbers got famous-ish for a while with barber expos, like conferences and Instagram. People are coming up to me like, oh my God, there was shows happening. And I was full of drugs at most of these parties after I did a haircut. And I was it was mad. I remember thinking to myself, oh, I'm unstoppable, I'm unbeatable. And do you ever read the book Ego is the Enemy?
Yeah.
Mad checking in. And then I remember thinking the best thing happened to me was I lost my first business, and I learned more from that than opening 5 shops.
Yeah.
So what do you, from that lesson, like, what does that just,
it's like
it
that.
stings, I'm sure, but
It's poxy, and sometimes the lesson you won't actually learn it until a couple of months after it. Because in hindsight, you're like, oh, Jesus, this is what I done wrong. But now, like, whenever I lose a fight, I'll go, right, or lose anything in life, not even just a fight. It could be someone you love, a relationship, a job. Like, I always say to myself, it's like a perspective on it. It's like, what is this loss trying to teach me? What lesson can I get from it?
does that come from you reading a book?
I don't know.
Where does that? Because that sounds
I've
very
read
knowledgeable.
a lot of books on
Similar,
mind and stuff like that, but I don't know where that came from. But
your kind of perspective is like, hang on there, might feel shitty now, I've lost a job, where's next week wage is going to come from? But sometimes you're like, hang on there, I'm after getting a better job.
Yeah, and but it could even be like, no, you weren't pulling your weight. You were slacking or whatever.
Did you really, did you really want that or whatever?
Or say for fights, for example, I'd be like, did I really like get enough sparring in, or was I focused on my recovery, or should I have went out the week before the fight? You know, you learn these.
Theme, what worked. I'd say it's a tough game, I don't want to call it a sport, because you're like, for me, I always thought, oh, you want to have a clear record, but that's not the reality, is it, in your sport? Because everyone loves a comeback story. Like, even with Mike Tyson, that's just someone I know. I'd be like, remember thinking like when he got locked up, but I remember his book, he was out, he had syphilis when he was fighting, I think against Buster Douglas or somebody, and he was out like having unprotected sex, was very unwell, partying loads, and he was like, he wasn't expecting to lose. He was knocking everyone out in the first and second round, and then 1 or 2 people took him to, I think, the later rounds, and it was mad for him. Like, it was him against him, and I don't know how he bounced back. His story's kind of crazy anyway. I just love Tyson in general. But for you professionally, so when you lose, like, do you have a professional record that we know of? Yeah. What is it?
So my professional record is 17 wins and 6 losses.
Okay.
So I've won a lot, but I've lost a good bit as well. But without the losses, I wouldn't be the type of fighter I am.
Yeah.
You know, and it makes you really appreciate when you do win, you know.
What's the feeling like of winning, if you had to describe it? Like, is it the best feeling in the world, or...
Do you know what, man?
Is it for you? Do you have a team? Is it for the gym?
Yeah, but it's very short-lived.
Really?
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's literally like... You're training for like 12 weeks, breaking your bollocks up to this moment, and then you win, and like, it's a moment of relief. You feel deadly. Maybe the night out is good as well, but then the next day it's just like, I'm gonna have to have another fight now. Like, it's probably then? Like, even in business, like, you open a new shop, it's great, but now I need to bleed and put the graft in and keep. And the more you win, the tougher the opposition gets. It gets just harder.
It does get harder.
It's a mad game. It's just harder.
I never looked at it like that. Yeah? And there's always going to be someone up and coming hungry. So is your reality, what's your kind of dream within your sport then?
Yeah.
Because what's coming up? Yeah.
The original goal was to be the Irish champion. That was, as soon as I started, I was like, I want to be the Irish champion.
Yeah.
And then when I got that, I didn't actually have any other goals. So for a while I was lost.
Yeah.
And then only recently, actually, this was about 2 years ago, Craig Coakley, I don't know if you know him. I do know
Craig, yeah.
Yeah. So
me and
him were out having a few gargles, and I was talking to him about this, because he's levels above me. He's probably the best in Ireland. So I was saying, mate, like, I don't know where I'm headed. And he was like, do you want to be the best in Ireland or the best in the world? And that just completely, I never thought like that. I was just thinking I want to be the best in Ireland.
Yeah.
And once he said that to me, like, it literally just, boom.
Was that the first person to actually say to you in real world?
Yeah, defo. And that was straight, man. I remember just sitting there like, Jesus Christ, this fella's just had to blow my mind, you know what I mean?
I seen a good bit of him online. So So I think, if I'm not mistaken, you're European champion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was before this conversation.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like, you know what, man, I can be the best in the world. I can be the best in Europe. So then I was like, right, what's my next step? My next step is to become the European champion.
Nice.
And it's funny because I was only actually coming back. I lost 3 fights back to back. In the last fight, I actually got knocked out cold. So a lot of people kind of give up at that point. And then I was like, no, fuck this, coming back. Went on a tour, fucking 4 fights, 4 knockouts. The last fight was the European champion. And it was just a real like eye-opener because we set the bar so low for ourselves. But when you think outside the box, like, it's cheesy and cliche, but like anything is possible.
Yeah, like it's mad when you think of, like, even cutting. So very good point. When you open the shop, it's like, you have an opening party, and then you're like, everyone comes. You get loads of likes. You know, I'm sure, like, you get a dopamine hit. When I open up a shop, it's like cut and sew, wrap my hands. You're like, wow, that's a few hundred likes on Instagram. And then the reality is that's just people liking it, and you're like, what else comes from that? And you're like, oh fuck, now I actually have to make it work, and it's a 10-year lease. But what comes, for business anyway, what comes for me is like the reward in doing it and thinking outside the box. And I'm like, this is a barber shop. So by nature, people don't really respect barbers. They just think, John's barbers, Paul's barbers. You go in and you get your haircut, but it's actually way more than that. So I try and create a space that it's not just for like one type of lad or one type of person. We get male, female, 6-year-olds, 66-year-olds, and it's a space. So I try and make sure the music is creating a great memory, and even thinking outside the box, where not many people were doing what we're doing with a social media account and like getting their face behind the camera. As you know, it's not easy trying to talk, and I've seen you doing it, and it's like, you have to think outside the box to get your name out there and to just show people who you are. But do you have a bit of a legacy story? So for me, I'll just give you an example. For me, I'm like, it's a success story. I came from a council estate, left school early, started with 1 chair, 1 mirror, and just nobody backed me. And my legacy would be to have this amazing brand, like a Dublin institution, but to be globally known, not just in Dublin or in Ireland. Now that we are making waves, what's your kind of, do you have a bit of a leg? Because you're 28, which is very young, I think. I don't want to be patronising in the fighting world, because, like, can you become world? If so, have you got a bit of a vision? Because you can. Like, your mindset to me seems bulletproof.
Yeah.
So like, how do you tackle these? Because I know you're probably very methodical.
Yeah. So like that, it was to be the Irish champion. Then Craig Coakley blew me bleeding mind. Yeah. So then I was like, right, next step, European champion. Next step after that, world champion. And then that's just as far as my vision goes for now, you know?
So with the whole like YouTube boxing and crossover and, MMA and fucking all this stuff, does money kind of motivate you in any way at all? Because you're in your job, and I think you said, no disrespect to anyone's job, but like, we all want to live comfortably, look after our family and stuff like that, and secure a future. Yeah. But I feel like you could be like a lawyer. Like, I remember seeing you bumped into David Goggins. Like, I was, of course, this lad. Yeah. So I was still asleep when I was walking down the quays, but it was like at 10 o'clock. Yeah.
Do you want to hear a Matt, right? Sorry to put in, right?
Please tell us a good story.
So the David Goggins one, right? So I was doing a 6 a.m. challenge called Operation No Snooze, right?
I remember following it. One time I think our missus turned it off. Yeah. So yeah. I was watching it. I was like,
And the reason why I started this was I seen a David Goggins video, and he's like, fucking don't snooze, get up, be a fucking badass, blah, 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 all this shit, right? Yeah. So I said, right, started it, right? And I'm a cunt for snoozing and all that other shit, right? Very hard to get out of bed. And it was on one of the mornings when I was up at 6:30 going to get a coffee that I bumped into David Goggins.
Right on the
And I was like, if I hadn't been up, I wouldn't have met him.
Did you go to see him or not?
No, I didn't even know he was... I didn't even know he was bleeding in the country, like. And I was
Get
like,
hard or whatever, yeah.
And I was like, this is
Stay hard.
And people are like, I had to pay bleeding 500 quid to meet this cunt, and I just bump into him. But it's mad the way the universe works. Like, I was doing this challenge because he like inspired me, and then I bump into him while I'm actually in the middle of doing it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, sorry to go off there.
No, I love it. It's so, I think what's more interesting to you was like your, I don't know, like your self-development, but like, do you have someone in your life that's kind of like a coach to do it? Like, or do you like, is it kind of yourself? Because I feel
I'm just
like
winging it, to be honest with you, mate.
But you know, you're like, I don't know what it might be. If when you're at an age when at 28, I was in the height of like weekends going out like Maradona. The nose, the golden era cutting snow basically were gone. It was fucking mad. I don't remember any of them years.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't have anyone above me, so to speak. There was no one here to be like, this is how it's done. But like in a professional sport, it's Craig Oakley you've mentioned loads of times.
Yeah.
So was he world champion or European or Irish?
Yeah, I think he is. He's a world champion anyway. He's the best in Ireland, like hands down.
How old is he? Did you mind me asking? Just for
couldn't bleed tell you. He's only a couple of years older than me, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, in his
Does he
40s.
make a living from it? Is it hard that people don't know?
Yeah, so Muay-Thai, man, there's no money in Muay-Thai. There's a new promotion. It's basically like the UFC's. The Muay-Thai's version of the UFC called One Championship, and Craig won a contract for that, and it was like $100,000 contract,
which is a lot of money. But if that could be for a few fights.
Yeah, I think
you break it down though.
Yeah, when you break it down,
fighting and all.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. That's what the way I'm looking at it now. Like I'm 28. I probably have, I'd say, about 5 years of fighting left. Do you know what I mean? Because I've had some wars over the years.
I've seen the highlight reels and some of the videos, and like, it's not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah.
Like, and say it, like the adrenaline is what I hear talking to people who are in your world, and they're like, it's the adrenaline can kind of get you through, but you can be battered afterwards. And you see the reality of it and injuries. You know, like that's to me. I'd be like, you don't really think of the safety net, do you, at your age? Or are you thinking, know what?
Man, so I was saying to you just off camera, in my last fight, I never used to think of like the future, longevity, any of that stuff. And in my last fight, I got knocked down twice, got back up, kept fighting. It was an absolute war. And I went to hospital, right, to get me lips stitched. Yeah. And the doctor took one look at me. I'm not sure if you've seen the pictures. My face is swollen. I look like the bleeding, the elephant man. But anyway, the doctor was like, yeah, we need to scan your brain, mate. And he found like a brain bleed. Oh. Yeah, so that's what I was saying to you. I end up having to stay in hospital for like 3 days. And I'm not allowed to fight until next year. Now it's looking like. Wow. But that was a bit, I know the damage that can be done, but I never seen it. Usually I'm the one knocking cunts out and doing the whole lot. Yeah, so you never really look at it, but then when it happens, you're like, Jesus, all for like a few quid. I could have been seriously injured, you know, like some people even die from brain bleeds, you know what I mean?
I know, it's
so
funny.
I was lucky, headgear. Like, yeah.
Is there like 4 ounce gloves like that?
4 ounce gloves, it's basically like a bit of bleeding leather over your knuckles, like.
Yeah. I know, yeah. Yeah, chin. Oh, like the movie, as a kickboxer man, he's kicking the actual plaster off it. What's his name in it? The mad guy in it. Oh, I forget. Tong Po. When he's kicking the thing down in kickboxer or whatever.
Kicking the banana tree down.
No, that's in kickbox. What's the other one in? Oh, that's in Bloodsport and kickboxing. Yeah, your man's kicking the plaster off the wall because his shin bones. And then I've seen people like Keane Kelly goes, no, you can condition your shins.
Yeah.
And he's got like he's got the hardest shin kicker. I've seen him beating records for kicking the walls. Like that. Yeah, I don't want to be getting into any fights anymore. Yeah. You know, before you fight, someone say, sorry mate, do you do any training or like that? I leave it. God, yeah. So reality kind of kicks in a bit with stuff like that.
So what you were saying about the money thing as well, like when I started, it was never about money. It was just I enjoyed it. It made me feel good. I wanted
Gave you purpose, confidence.
Yeah. But then like I'm like 8-9 years in the game now. Do you know what I mean? Now I'm like, right, I need to get paid from this because I'm actually dedicating so much of me life.
So what's a way in which though people can help you? Like when you have a fight coming up, I know people can maybe sponsor.
I have a few sponsors, but the goal is to get into that one championship. But after that, I had a fight. It was actually a tournament to get into that, and I lost the fight, and I ended up in hospital. And I was like, Jesus, man, like I kind of had to weigh it out and be like, is it even worth it? Even if I get champion, there,
like that. This is the mad thing. So you're a champion, and then you know when you're of a certain age, like same way with Sam, where like, you know, he probably, I don't know what the goal is, but you're like, you know, have the best podcast in the world, baby. And like, and be like Dan Brazier, you're just making that cheddar. But you know, you're weighing it up. But the difference with us is that if a business works grand, no one's punching me in the head or like beating up, or there's no bleeding on the brain or coming back from it. As you're approaching, like, you're years away from 30, when I think about, I'm like, because I'm 37, so 40s, I'm only thinking about the next few months, but is it setting in? Like, I feel like just based off you, I'm not trying to put ideas in there, but like, I could see a book coming from you. I could see like a Pat Divilly, like this lad is like a global, you know, has men's circle and that, all these global speaking, because of the background that your story is so unique, as is everyone's. When you're going out, I just find it, your audience, you know, sees this. It's like, I don't know, I can't wait. Like, if you're a world champion, I'd be like, yeah, amazing. Like, I love chatting to you. I'd be like, this very much is a young man that can do that.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, do you have a bit of a vision board? I feel like you do, but you probably don't. No, you're just winging it, kind of.
Just winging. Now, my goal is, now the one championship is one aspect. That's in 4-ounce gloves, but you can
only get in if you win this thing. It's not like
no, you can get invited, and then you have to have a few fights to get onto it.
Okay.
But I'm planning on doing. I'm still planning on becoming a world champion. That's my goal. But once this rest is, I'm resting up and I'm doing this run now. I don't know if you've seen that.
With Chris?
No, it's 100 miles.
Okay,
run. It's called the Connemara 100 mile.
I think I've heard of the Ring of Kerry cycle or
something like that. It's 160k.
Oh wow,
that's what it is. Yeah, and you have to do it.
yeah.
And you have to do it.
Down. I just go to the local pub. I know. Yeah.
So because I can't fight, I'm the type of guy. Like anyone, I need a purpose. I need something to work towards.
Yeah.
And I need something that will scare the absolute bollocks out of me. Like, fighting scares me. It forces me to go to the gym. On the days I don't want to go, I know there's some other fella flat out coming to take my head off. So I have to get up out of bed. I have to not snooze. So it's the same with this race now. I'm like, right, I have to stay out of booze, or I have to stop partying. I have to eat healthy.
You're a Guinness man, aren't you?
Yeah, I love it.
I know. I get excited for you when I see it. I'm like, right, oh yeah, creamy Guinness.
Yeah.
And they're lovely.
We might have one after, will we?
No, I'm checking. It's really hard for me because I love them. I never have one. Like, my missus would kill me. We've a little mood board in the gaff.
Yeah.
And I'm very visual. You know, like when you see like the 100-day hard or 75-day hard, it's like I have a little X if I drink or if I have bad food, and I have a little tick, and I'm on a good little stint now. And I'm meeting my trainer tomorrow. He's not happy. I haven't lost any weight in a week, but it's week 1 of 12. I'm trying to lose a couple of kg. And I love Guinness. But so with the next 6 months into the new year, so like you're training, like what else are you doing? Because you read a lot, and I feel like, you know, you probably do a lot of self-development. But well, first of all, who's maybe 1 or 2 people that you follow or like, or is there a collective of people? Like, I love Pat Divilly. David Goggins is quite big, but is there any like podcasts or books that have really kind of helped you or changed? So like listeners can kind of say, do you know what? I'm into fighting. Is there a fighter you should follow, or like a nutritionist or a coach? I
don't really watch a lot of podcasts even. Actually, the only one I would watch is a fella called Andrew Huberman.
Okay.
And he's like,
I feel like I know the name.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a neuroscientist, and it's all about like basically improving your life.
The Dr. James guy seems to be, you know, he just shares very simple.
Yeah, matter of fact stuff.
You're just like sunlight, 6,000 steps, no booze, good sleep, direct sunlight. Very similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't really watch a lot. Like, I read a good few books and that. But yeah.
Okay.
Kind of use myself as...
Do you still play Xbox?
No, I can't play anymore now. I rage heavy if I try to play the game.
So here's my thing, because I think I said coming in here, I was like, my ADHD, right? I feel like it gets thrown around a lot. And my miss like, Sean, you can't sit still, you go bananas. I'm like, so how do you get assessed for it? Because this is very good for me and Sam and listeners to be like, so is there an online thing, or do you go somewhere specifically?
So there's some, what's called ADHD doc. Yeah. But they bring you in and they have like 3 different like doctors basically interview you, get you to do a couple of tests. I knew for a fact I don't know if I don't think I am when you'll tell me. My little brother. So what happened was, right, my little brother got diagnosed with ADHD. He's mental now, right? And then my uncle got diagnosed with ADHD and he's like 50. And I was like, my uncle has it, my little brother has it. I was like, I 100% have it. I remember I watched some fella, what's his name? Dr. Gabe or Mate or something on the Joe Rogan podcast, but he's talking about ADHD. And as he was describing it, I was like, man, this is my life. This just makes so much sense.
Give us an example of like something that you'd be thinking. It's not like OCD or like, Wayne really has to sleep with the hairdryer on in the bedroom. He has an afternoon nap, and the only way he can sleep is like, some people, if they have the telly on, I always sleep at the telly or a podcast on. It's terrible. But what was one thing that was quite mad?
I'm trying, like, do you know what? It's funny. One of the traits is like just being head like a sieve.
That's got to get loads of people out of trouble.
It's funny because I can't even think of the trait.
You forgot the anniversary.
Do you know what a big one is? If you're not really interested in something, you can't pay attention to
anything. Like for watching a program or listening.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's why it made sense. So going into these like interviews with the doctors, you have to bring your ma with you. And like they'll be saying, can you, like, what was he like and blah blah blah. My ma was just he has it, you know what I mean? Like the example she gave, she was like, when he was in play school, the teacher used to tell him to do something, and said you'd say go to page whatever, and I would just flick to the back of the book and start drawing, and like they'd be trying to tell me to do something and I'd just be ignoring them, like doing my own thing, like I don't give a bollocks what you're saying, basically.
But do you know what? I'd say if you answer a few simple questions from a professional, you'll probably know. I think I don't know if I just can't sit still. But I get very laser focused when I think
that's another one. Sorry, like deep focus. When you are interested in something, you go like heavy. Like it's like self-improvement, a diet and all. See, I can just consume that shit all day long because I know it's and just same with the Urban podcast. Like this is like 2.5 hours long. There's like scientific jargon, the whole lot. And I mean, I'll be locked in on this just because I know it's going to better me. And anything I'm interested in, I'll just go heavy, like mental on it. It's mad, Yeah,
it's interesting that you say that because, the whole podcast as well, trying to figure out about interesting people in Dublin, different lifestyles. You're the first, like, fighter. Well, we had Emmett Brendan in as a boxer. Yeah. And he was talking a little bit about being in the Olympics and, like, losing and stuff like that. And I know we touched on that, but for, as I said, the road to next year, what do you start like a process with when it comes to the next goal? So say you're saying, right, I'm doing, so for instance, the new 160 kilometer run, like, I see you're out running all the time. Yeah. So are you just conditioning yourself at the minute to get fit, or like it's not about time, it's about getting it done? Yeah. Is it all in one go? Like, no, sure.
Yeah, it's in one go. Yeah. Yeah. It's 30 hours cut off point. So you have 30 hours.
Like the David Goggins was talking about running that one in the fucking, running that one in the desert. Yeah. And he's like, I didn't even realize about like, putting sellotape over the nipples because they were bleeding after like 12 hours or the gooch.
See, fighting kind of taught me that you have to be like, preparation is key to everything, and like having like good coaches and people who know what they're doing. So as soon as I signed up to the race, I was like, right, got onto my strength and conditioning coach, let him know what was happening, And then I got into a fella called Conor O'Keefe. I don't know if you know him, do you?
No.
But he ran a load of these.
Oh, I do know the guy. Yeah, I do.
From Cork.
Yeah, I seen him at a Mesa event. Running a Q&A after doing a 5K.
Yeah, so I got onto him. I was like, look, I'm taking on this. He offered to like help me out with coaching and stuff like that as well. So I got him on board. And yeah, I have my strength and conditioning coach and him.
And no booze for the next while?
We'll try it. We'll try our best.
This lad trying to get us to go for a beer.
Yeah.
Well, look, that's amazing for that, because obviously when we wrap the podcast, when we click all these bits, I'm going to push it heavily on socials to try and get people to follow you. But I know you have a bigger following than me anyway, but the podcast is doing really good for helping people trying to get into mindset, mindfulness, and just like the kind of stories of not underdogs, but I think everyone that we chat to, I love the humble beginnings. Yeah. I love just how honest you are. I think you're like a very good, I don't want to say role model and make you feel like you can't go out on the marathon or have a few points, right? Because that's human. 80-20 is a good balance.
I'm trying to be a good human. I'm trying to be
like
good.
A really good
brother
to
be better.
And partner. And I'm sure you're fucking probably great in the gym. But for me, what's important for the podcast is to try and ask everyone what does dangerous when focused mean. And over the last hour, I'm trying to think, has anything come up? And I'll leave the podcast at this, because for me, dangerous when focused means when I'm laser focused at like the tasks I'm doing, and I focus, I feel invincible. Like, stop taking drugs, I open new shops, I can save money for a house, I can have better relationships with my family, friends. I do feel physically bulletproof and nearly like immortal with, when I get into that zone. So do you kind of know what that means to you, or does it have any meaning to yourself, dangerous when focused?
Dangerous when focused to me is having a goal, eating good food, training hard, recovering well, spending time with your friends and family, and just striving to be a better person. And you do all those things, it's world domination.
Well, look, for hopefully a world champion. That sounds very, very good. We'll click that. Jay, thanks so much, bro. We'll do it again. It's amazing to have you on to chat to you, and everyone that's watching or listening, I'm sure they're going to probably listen to this again. So make sure you download, subscribe, and follow Jay and all the rest. So thank you very much.
Nice one. Thanks for having us, lads. Yeah.